dele também, vai buscar o próximo, não! Tentou levar na Ghost.
Nice shot, HGO, nice shot, bro, nice shot.
So we love that.
Do outro lado não tinha como, fica no passinho do Romano, todo troncho, todo esquisito.
Why are you so quiet?
We love that atmosphere. We love when it's, you know, action-packed, very loud, very exciting.
Tem mais uma oportunidade para os jogadores controlados, só de bolinha de shoot him, by the way.
Where the true fun comes as a competitor is on that stage, playing in front of a crowd. And I want that to be reality next year.
La fase de grupos nos da la posibilidad de adaptarnos al rival sin posibilidad de quedar eliminados. Estamos muy motivados para los próximos games, sabiendo que podemos ganar a cualquier rival.
Já o Koala e o Afão. Não vacila, é o primeiro.
Quer mais? Já encontrou mais um!
Afão! Cima, já se livra do primeiro. E aí, são 3 de vida, 3 de HP do EU. E o Gupark pra cima dele. E salva de Union. 3 abates, estão sendo muito atropelados. Punk, sua vez. Tá ele, Punk vem com o Clarão. Perfeito, Clarão, Punk! Duplo abate. Não tinha ninguém da Union quebrado. Agora o Punk tava lá, ganhou muito tempo, pegou abate, ultou.
A gente vai chegar para impor o nosso jogo.
Tenemos el nivel, la confianza, las herramientas.
Ahora fusion.
A gente vai fazer o nosso de novo, a gente vai mandar bem de novo e é isso. A gente vai para cima dos caras e vamos ganhar esse jogo aí.
Podamos demostrar el verdadero nivel que tiene el equipo Fusion y que tiene nuestra región.
VCT Ascension Americas continues on here with day 3, the final day of the group stages. And obviously we want to see who is going to be walking away as the #1 seed for each respective group and getting that first round bye in the playoffs moving forward. It's a huge advantage to be coming into the playoff bracket in the semifinals, watching the quarterfinals, your effective opponents playing and duking it out. Obviously, it's still double elim too, so you know you've got opportunities, and that's a big one to take, and all of these teams are going to be fighting for that spot, and there is a world where these teams are all still fighting for it, because we could end up in a 3-way tie, and we'll see if that ends up happening. But joining me on the desk today, we've got Starry Bun, and we've got Roy. He used to be called Strong Legs, but I guess we're just calling you Roy now. Roy, you've been able to watch a couple of days of the action so far. You were here on the desk with me just a few days ago. Overall impressions as we take a look at the group standings.
I think everything I thought I knew about Valorant is out the window. That's the first thing for me. Like, I thought maybe we had an advantage from the North American teams, but I mean, it has not played out that way. I think the competition is super tight here. I think the games have been extremely action-packed. I think there are so many unique styles. This is what Valorant is all about here, just manifested in this tournament.
And looking at these two, it's important to note the differential is not round diff, that's map diff. And the reason we're saying you could end up in a multi-way tie is because if these games both end 2-0 in favor of the teams that are currently sitting on the bottom, everyone would be in a similar spot. It would be kind of an interesting scenario to see it play out. It would come down to round diff at that point. So there is still a world where M80, despite the fact that they are at a 1-1 record, they could make it in as the #1 seed from Group A. And then over in Group B, the Guard could also get knocked down, assuming they are not able to close things out today against 9Z and struggle when it comes to their rounds. So there's still a lot of weight on the games that we're going to be seeing today, which means it's time to pivot and focus on our first match of the day. This first match of the day is going to focus on a team that we saw in day 1. And sorry, the Union being that team, so incredibly good, definitely maybe doubted a little bit by the community in that opening match against M80.
No, for sure. M80 has been such a strong team in the NA region, but the Union, I've been kind of keeping up with them, and they're also a really strong contender. I feel like people are mostly our viewers are more well versed in like watching the North American teams play, so they don't really know that much about the Union, but they're definitely like a strong contender that's like absolutely dominating in their region. And the way that they like won against their match against M80 was really impressive. Like the way they made M80 so uncomfortable, and we're not used to seeing M80 like that. M80 is like a very confident team and like a team that's always like super dominating. So to see them kind of like struggle and to see them make M80 uncomfortable was like really fun to watch.
Union definitely a scary team. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, one of the best records of any team coming into this. When I was looking at the teams, just how they stacked up on paper, going back to Split 2, this roster 10-0 with obviously a slight asterisk there. The final man on the roster, Askia, a more recent addition, Roy. He joined in about week 4, week 5, if I'm not mistaken, in that second split. He had 6 official matches with this team before he came to LAN and played at the Ascension Americas tournament, and he was looking pretty good in his opening series.
Yeah, keep in mind, like for a long time in FPS games, we always thought like, oh, late roster changes always never work out. The teams with the longest standing rosters are usually the ones performing like better, and you know what I mean? But I feel like that narrative in Valorant has recently changed with EG, with this team as well. Like the addition of Askia, they've looked so like energized, passionate. Their play style just feels like, it feels like Askia has been on this team for years with the way they're playing.
And then here's a player, too, that was definitely a potent piece of what they were bringing to the table. I go back to a round that was particularly backbreaking, where he's sitting in spawn holding the flank, Roy, and it like still makes me shudder a little bit as a fan of M80.
Yeah, Pank is, I feel like we have not sang his praises enough, and Pank is just such a strong player. He's a sentinel player, of course. He's kind of like the anchor for the team, but it feels like his playstyle is so well constructed in this roster. Just like his opening success has been impeccable. His statistics have been crazy. His impact has been wild. Like overall, the way Pank plays within this team, within the structure, has fit him so well.
When we look at this team, though, for me, one of the things that made them so incredibly scary was their mid-rounding. And clearly they were well-rehearsed as well. They knew what to expect from their opponent. When you watch the game against M80, and we'll see a couple of the rounds we're talking about, they have the ability to hit the gas pedal and go very fast on the play. So you can see this fast-paced play towards the B site. Askia is in tower within the first few seconds of the round, and it effectively flushes everyone from M80 on out. Then you go around in the future. They get aggressive on the M80 side, trying to find an early advantage. They lose those battles, and you see a rapid rotate coming from Union. Rather than go for the fight, they back off and they readdress towards the A site, and as a result, you get this pick-off play over towards B main. It's understanding that M80 is a push-pull team. It was something we were talking about on the desk. So as they lost control somewhere, they were pushing somewhere else, and they were very good at taking advantage of that.
It's really impressive to see the Union kind of manipulate those kind of rotations from M80. It was like really interesting to see, because not only is the Union really strong on their individual firepower, but to see them be able to like make those adjustments so quick too. Like they got that first pick and they were like, all right, we're out. And that like being able to like adapt that fast and around is like makes the Union somewhat like unpredictable. And I think that's what like M80 struggled with the most, was like trying to predict what the Union was doing. But since they were adapting so well, it was just like hard to go against that.
And I think what builds on top of that as well is the fact like their opening success and the way they play their openers are just so strong. Their set pieces, though, their off-rip things are just so well constructed that they have that kind of pressure in the mid-round, right? So we're like, as soon as they show themselves, these teams are like, oh, we got to adapt quickly because they're so good at running these pieces. We have to disrupt, we have to disrupt, we have to disrupt. But then they're like, immediately they're mid-rounding. They're pivoting to a different plan. They're going to their plan B. They're going to their plan C. And it's just so difficult, and as like an IGL and as a coach to prep for, because they're explosive on every single phase of the round.
Fusion, on the other hand, a team that I think a lot of people come into this event and they're like, I don't really know what to expect from Fusion. Maybe not the strongest team of all the teams that are competing here. Definitely more of a dark horse category team. Maybe could even lump them in with 00 Nation as a team that's not exactly favored to win this event, but still very strong in their own right. Also, as a result, ends up being slightly unpredictable. Maybe a team you don't have as much tape on, you don't have as much knowledge. I think it was even them who said, yeah, we took like a month off and no one really knew what we were doing in that 1 month. We were working on our game and we kind of stayed in the background. We were lurking in the shadows, waiting for our opportunity, and now they've found it. Their opening series, maybe it left a little bit to be desired. It wasn't exactly a perfect game coming out from Fusion, but I do feel like, there's things that they can fix here, and Meathead potentially a big piece of the puzzle as far as it comes to the solution for fixing those problems.
For sure. We definitely saw like flashes of brilliance from Fusion, often during their thrifty rounds. Like we saw them be able to kind of coordinate that util usage well. And I think for me personally, I felt like for Fusion, you can see that their util layering and their util usage was more coordinated when they were on their eco rounds. And I think being on the eco rounds kind of give you confidence because you're like kind of all in, you know, like when you're on those eco rounds and you're only on pistols, you don't really have that much to lose. And I think for them, like they played so coordinated, the trades were just there. But on their gun rounds, we didn't find like those like similar plays that were happening and those similar trades that were happening. So I felt like they definitely did have like those key rounds and they definitely did know like, you know, how to play the rounds correctly with the way they like did their ecos. And I would love to see that come from their gun rounds more often. Like I want to see like their util layering and their util usage, more coordination come in their gun rounds, you know, because like their eco rounds were so good and we just need to translate those into your gun rounds. I feel like they would have found more success.
And I want to circle back to the point that you mentioned. You said they have nothing, that feeling of nothing to lose, right? And in Kami, the head coach for Fusion, after their match, he had a tweet saying he was hinting at like a psychological meeting with a psychologist. And obviously that's hinting at some sort of like psychological hurdle that they might be facing playing on the big stage. And usually like these sort of like feelings, I feel like as a former player, it kind of, they usually resolve after like 1 or 2 matches. So I think for Fusion, like if there is a psychological hurdle, if there is some sort of like mental block, it's going to go away hopefully with every match that they play. So we should be seeing a stronger showing from them.
And that tape too as well was an indicator of what you were talking about, Starry, is their layering, their utility. It felt like in the ecos and thrifty rounds, they worked together as a team. Everything made sense. They pop the ult underneath and they make the execute work for them. They forced the other team back towards them. They were sitting in main. They had some nano swarms go down, a paint shells goes out, a molly goes out. Meathead's got the flank on lockdown, gets 2 kills. It was really well coordinated and it was one of the many eco rounds that they were able to win. But unfortunately, it was one of the few rounds period they were able to win. They were really struggling in their gun rounds. It just was not what we want to see from them. So as a result, you know, they end up going down against the guard, but there's still a world where this team can turn things around. They just need to find a alternative strategy for finding success. And I say the guard, I mean M80, excuse me. But as we get ready to peer into what this series could be, if Fusion can fix the gun rounds, maybe there's a world where they're able to best the Union. But as we take a look at the map picks and bans for the series, starting things out on Pearl, then we'll be heading over to Fracture, finishing things out should we need it. It would be the first time we've had a 3-map series. It will be Lotus. Roy, just looking at these maps in general, thoughts overall as we see the picks and bans come through?
I have a couple thoughts actually. One, Fusion's Pearl is not a map they've played that much since April 1st. They've only played it once. They've actually lost on it, and they had a pretty off-meta comp. So I think on the first map here, we can expect something either one unpredictable. They might completely swap up their comp, but if they are running that comp, I think we're in for a pretty cool showing.
And there's the agents coming out very quickly. Very quickly. And we have a double duelist comp, the likes of which has never been seen. I am a little bit shocked by the Yoru Neon combination, but I guess they've got something they've cooked up in the lab, which means it's our time to say goodbye. We'll send things over to our casters, Tanner Metro and Dryad. Thoughts on this agent select?
Wow, yeah, thank you so much to Bach and the desk. Obviously, Roy and Starry Bun, given their knowledge. Dryad, it's a normal day.
What is happening?
It's a normal day.
What is happening?
Nothing weird is going on as we set our eyes onto Pearl, which it first glance, Dryad, we were relatively perplexed that Fusion decided to go here because of their history on it, but they have been cooking something fierce.
There are so many things to break down, but this Neo, this is something that we've never seen before. We've seen the double duelist, we've seen the Race and the Jet, we've seen the Reyna too from Fusion, but this is new.
Yeah, and it is as quick as you would expect. Verdi already into the back lines here. A win from Fusion would really throw a wrench into the group. And also, I would say would be a huge upset. And we'll see how much they can get done as both duelists now link up. For the inevitable B play, they're still kind of split around the map. Verdi gonna look to get aggressive. Shots that don't quite land. A Nanoswarm keeps him at bay. Out goes the clone. But it's not much more than that. It's actually damage received by Darker.
And it's very quick as well. Something that we saw from Fusion last time around. Everybody kind of in this mid round wanting to group up, play it together until the very end. And playing around this util too. Again, something that we've never seen before, but the contact, it doesn't really lead into any kills early on.
Yeah, but this guy here is a tough one to get through. NTK on the site will be dug out. Verdi matches 2 for 1. As Oscar will have to work his way back towards the team. So a player advantage, the way of Fusion make it 2 now as Pank puts himself in a tough spot. And there's too many targets to worry about. Now all the weight on his shoulders as Askia works his way back into the site, but it's Darker who meets him, and it's Fusion to take the first pistol.
Playing all around the map, and another point here is when we got to see Fusion against M80, they were struggling so much in those pistols. Something that, I mean, if you were watching Latin America North all throughout, these guys were so creative on the pistols. We get to see it again today in a way that turns into success. And a Fusion that you need to keep your eyes on, a team that, I mean, you think about the beginning of the season, how it was for them, all the way back early into the year, they were struggling. Then they found kind of how the play was gonna go for them, and they started coming up with these set plays, with these ideas for the pistols, with that map control that they always like to have very early on. And the potential here against the favorite team of Brazil.
Yeah, a couple of rounds pieced together could be everything that Fusion needs. I think looking back at the matches from the other day, they played the most confident when they really had nothing to lose. Now maybe the confidence getting the better of them as they do lose 2 players. Leave a rifle down as well. The classic, decent damage from the Union, but not enough to take away the round. But Fusion, they put together the rounds that they were winning were rounds that they had sheriffs. The rounds were that they felt confidence in the fights that they were taking. And that's what I wanted to see from them today, right? Is, hey, play like you have nothing to lose like you did on those eco rounds. In a 2-round lead, or a 2-round start, a lead to start, I should say, that puts you in a pretty good spot to say, hey, we can beat these guys.
Absolutely, and in a lot of ways, I think it does go back to something that I was mentioning, right? That the set plays, the set ideas that this Fusion team has, and you get to see it on those eco rounds that we got to see against M80 multiple times, where they were winning those thrifties right and left. And when it comes to these, it's a good way to start realize that you can start mixing them up on those big important rounds like this one. I mean, winning that 3rd one. It's a perfect way to start against the Union of the defense.
Wow. Yeah, and you talked about perfect ways to start. The duelist getting active early in this. Oscar gonna back away. Theory can't quite find the trade for Darker just yet. Will grab himself an upgrade as the flash comes out over the top. Rafa looking to play the 2-man here for his duelist. Crouches, sprays, Theory punishes, but the kill is traded right back. It's 2 for Askia as we're even across the board.
The flash sent from all the way back just to set up Askia for that kill. Ends up getting it so, but also Leonard coming through that overdrive. Turns to spam on the other side of the map.
And RVN found a bit of damage onto Verdi. It puts him in a tough spot. This is not an ultimate where you're going to find one taps. Here's with 30 HP. Doesn't feel great, but he still does it. Pank will fall. RVN hasn't quite been dug out just yet. The Zappy Fingers go through. The overdrive could not connect onto another. So now, Controller and Duelist. Order available on one side, and Fusion do it again. The bonus round, it swings their way. They're up 3-0 over the Union.
A massive once again to get here for Fusion for this 3rd round, especially for the contact that we saw early on towards that B side. Early on towards long, the fight for 2 players on each side. And I'm going the way of Fusion, and while that was happening, there was another war going on that A side just to get that spike planted. This is the sort of map control that we're used to seeing from Fusion when you think about it all the way back, and even the hype around it. This is a team that is so energetic, and when you get to feel that momentum, they're gonna hold on to it for way longer. So potential thrifty that would be necessary for the Union to get this one. All the sheriffs at hand. Askia with a Blaze Storm as well, so something scary to deal with on the other side.
Yeah, that is relatively terrifying after seeing what Askia did against the #1 team of North America. I think a duelist that we didn't really get to talk a whole lot about in their first showing is Verdi, who was a bit slower to get started. I say his name, unfortunately, finds himself 6 feet under, but good damage in response, a 1-for-1 trade. But this round is all about the Union doing damage.
One player going down on each side, and Fusion recognizing how the economy looks on the other side, willing to slow things down just for a little bit. Pretty much by himself towards mid, ends up backing up, and this is when you start to see that faster pace with the Yoru too, setting it up for B.
Oh, he's gonna get so much value out of this. Ulting and then teleporting into it means the dimensional drift gets started right in the face of Pank, who's now put in a tough spot as the flashes come through. Eventually will reveal himself, but not before Pank finds a kill. Edu falls.
Here.
It's not done just yet. The Union still fighting in this one. Darker lower in HP. Theory on the back lines. Back in U-Haul. Rob will find his way on the flank. The shots, they're just escaping him, but he survives. He can play his util as RVN. Grabs him for himself. 2 kills, traded right back in Fusion. Have seemingly grabbed control back of this round, but Askia still alive with the blades, but only for a moment longer. 4-0 Fusion the lead.
And Askia kind of waiting for his timing, right, to go right in, and the timing just never came to him. Everybody kind of getting taken down and picked apart one by one. Towards long two with the flank that was coming through for the Union. Except Thrifty, impossible. And it's a 4-over and kind of a completely different scenario from what we saw from Fusion last time around. And these are matches that they go into this map of Pearl having so much information from the Union, right? We remember that overtime after overtime that we saw from M80 here.
Ooh, it's quick again, Birdie. Trying to get the better half of the trade there. Unfortunately falls. Too much util and RVN to deal with means Fusion start a duelist down as Meated looks to work hand in hand with Edu to take some of the space back.
And it's a lot of that mid control too. They had to give up that B-long that you see just being held by Darker right now. That Yoru on the other side, well, everybody else just takes advantage of that space that has been given again towards mid by the Union. That is the space that they worked with a couple rounds ago, trying to do so again.
And NTK was so good. I'm gonna hold that thought, Theory. Maybe get caught off guard, clearing his corners. He's doing the right thing, but he gets punished for it. Like you mentioned, that timing. Too good to RVN. Will back away, puts himself in a difficult spot though. He's not out of trouble just yet. Getting crunched from both sides, steps back into the smoke, and it's Darker to come out a kill ahead.
And finally, just being with the rest of the team here, but it's a 2v3. Askia was on the other side. Darker here, the difference maker, gets a first one, gets a second one too. Midted goes for the swing too, and goes down because of it.
They had no idea that Meated was there. Sneaks all the way into the back lines. I was wondering what this Omen could do. It has nothing to do with the utility that the Omen brings to the map. Instead, it's just the heads-up play. Oof. But his teammates fall in. Askia finds it first. Needs to be the hero again. A shrouded step to change angles. Meated will take the duel. Cloudburst goes down, a tap on the spike, and Askia trying his darndest to put one on the board. Shots to the wall won't land. 7 left, and he doesn't even need the whole magazine. Askia gets it done in the 1v2 here against Darker and Meated, the shining stars for this team. A clutch goes the way of the Union, and they're finally on the board.
And all thanks to Askia, the player that we've been talking about. We got the chance to see going absolutely insane, not only in Brazil, but in that last match that we got to see for the Union. It was a 3v2. It looked scary because Askia was the only one towards that B side, had to go all the way towards A as the spike gets planted, as he has to play the close plan and the clutch by himself. And gets it, and gets that first round for the Union just like that.
And it hurts. The positioning was so perfect for me that the entire round to get to the back lines and find that kill. And then that shrouded step, I think at that point, Askia still didn't know where he was until he spotted the shoulder. Now just as quick as it's always been. Fusion already into the A site. If nobody's slowing them down or stopping them until they finally plant their feet, the Union fight back for a few kills of their own, but they've been dug out. And once more, we're 20 seconds of the round, Dryad, and there's only 4 players alive, 2 on each side.
But this is because of Fusion, right? This is not because of the Union, as we got to see on their match, where it was them with the fast pace coming in and coming right at the enemy. This time around, it's all thanks to Fusion, and it's just this composition that is absolutely enabling them to do so. Be careful though, Askia's still alive.
Still in the back line, stun onto Rafa, and now Edu put in a tough spot, needs to try and clutch it out himself with 3 bullets to try and deal with the first. Unfortunately, forced to reload, and Askia does it once more, cleans up the rest of the kills on the round, and then Union. Oh man, Fusion can hear the footsteps. The Union are starting to run their way back into this.
With a little bit more control for sure, and we didn't even see the timeout. We didn't see any kind of crazy adaptation that required that coach to step in. It was mostly just a Union allowing that fast pace to take place, allowing that A site to be given away, and to play for that retake this time with the numbers a little bit more to their side. So a Union that is more than comfortable on this stage, and also more than comfortable turning matches, turning maps around. With 4 ultimates available to it, it seems like it just meant to happen this way.
Ooh. And Askia with 2-round wins to their name says, I finally earned myself. The operator pulls it out. It's not even needed for the first kill. Rafa grabs 1 player spotted though, so they know numbers are headed this way. And I mean, yeah, call the rotations over. This is how Fusion are playing Pearl.
The Yoru and the flash as well, connecting for a second, slowing down the play for a Fusion that initially tried to take down Askia, the 2 players that you saw towards long, and end up being forced to back up. Now, is this a call to go all the way towards that A side? Nobody was there. Nobody was holding the map control at all. So having to re-clear all those angles and just, for now, cutting noise towards V, wanting to go for this re-hit.
And look at their setup now. Basically everything covered, especially being a player ahead now, make it 2. As Askia finds one onto Darker. That was bound to happen with the operator in the hands of the Jet for the Union. But alarm bot to make sure nobody's sneaking through the sewers. That turret is always there to make sure nobody's creeping through Art. And Pank never had to leave, right? They had an even fight because of that early first blood.
Yep.
From Rafa. So the Union really starting to buckle up.
A killjoy util that you definitely see kind of spread across the map, and making sure that the mid control doesn't require black play for contact with the time running out. The players as well from Fusion ends up going down. Seems perfect for the Union into this one. And yeah, they're gonna secure that 3rd round. And that was also an adaptation that Union had to do, right? That the killjoy util that now you see across. Before, that was not the case. A couple rounds ago, we were just talking about Fusion and that mid control that they were having pretty heavy because there was nobody up close. Now it is killjoy that is able to play a little bit more far back, playing for that lockdown, and also being able to get that information as anybody tries to push in.
And 1 round away from tying us up, the Union seemingly have got a pretty good read on this Fusion attack.
Placing swap grenade.
I mean, that last round was essentially Fusion saying, hey, we're going to slam this site. Oh, we can't? All right, let's just hang on to what we've got. They try to fight their way back into it, but the defense still pieced together just a bit too well. Now they'll look to go fast into Art to try and deal with some of this utility. Maybe even dig out Pank as he's forced away. Relay Bolt will find that stun. Meted not yet spotted as NTK looks to take that space that he just claimed with his drone. Still wary of this, right? Plays out towards A, expecting an A hit. Their eyes have been set elsewhere here for Fusion.
And it seems like it's gonna be B, but through Link. There's an operator on the side, but now push on the other one. Are they expecting the Jet to be here? Rafa, though, in the meantime, gonna hold it down.
And there's that lockdown that you talked about. There's just no way in. Fusion, they try to show us something different. They try and feint out towards A, make that rotation through mid, and get over towards this B site, but it's immediately thwarted. Verdi already erase a lockdown to chip away at the clock. They're going to look to go back towards A, but look at where the defense is. They have no worries at all.
3 players towards this A side makes it so difficult, and they never really played around it. They never really were concerned about this B hit because of that lockdown that was going to be available.
Yeah, and Askia's position, he's all the way pushed up, right? It had to be through Link. If anything, that lockdown forces them back. They do seem to get the spike planted here. Those shock darts that we talked about the other day from NTK, they go just a bit wide. Meted gonna stop his ultimate, not quite get into the back lines. It's a Cosmic Divide, will split this site in half. Darker left to fight on top of it. Just go 1 for 1, but you can't afford these trades if you're Fusion. The back and forth continues. The Ghost will find a frag. Eventually, Pank is gonna be the one called to hop on the spike as Meted and Edu They're gonna try their hand at something. Unfortunately, there's just nothing for it. Stick into defuses. Pank, Askia, and Pank will find the kills that remain, and we're all tied up at 4.
And there's so much chaos for these rounds. You see kind of how proactive Fusion is on this attacking side, to go right, to go to the A side, to go to B, to play around the info that they get according to where these agents, where these players are going to be located. At the beginning of the rounds, you saw a little bit more presence towards B, and after Askia got the operator, that is not something that you want to contest as much. You see them giving that respect, going from link, and then being denied. It just seems like it's a Union that is one step ahead into how this positioning is going to look like, both at the beginning of these rounds and right in the middle when Fusion are trying to find a way in.
And Fusion have showed us a couple of different looks now in this tactical timeout. I think the economy might be, it may be a silly spot. We'll see what they can buy coming into this next round, but they tried the fast hits, they tried the cancels, they tried the fakes, and the Union in the last 4 rounds, they've been able, like you mentioned, to read all of that. So what is the change here, right? Do we see maybe Meated kind of getting out and exploring parts of the map, playing that lurk role, looking to get activated there? It worked once. Unfortunately, they ended up losing that round because Askia is Askia. But I'm wondering what the change is here. Something that was the Union was praised for on this map, or just in general, is their ability to activate lurks, especially on the attacking side. So we'll see if Fusion can do the same, as this buy does look, unfortunately, a little goofy silly. So this might not be the round, but this is also where they, you know, they kind of go crazy with the Sheriffs and the Stingers.
Yeah, this is where the Fusion likes to shine the most, on this Thrifties. But on this map, though, so much more difficult, right? You have that operator on the other side. You have a Union that is actively looking for opportunities like this one, Mitted. Right away down. And something that kind of the desk and the casters have been talking about when is this eco rounds. They just everybody from Fusion playing together.
Yeah, Verdi, they'll try to get activated. Ooh, overdrive online, but GuRVN won't allow it, man. This guy takes space into A main. Erases Beacon playing by himself. Will find a kill onto the duelist phone. He wants some more. He's got a couple players in front of him, making 3 kills on the round for GuRVN. And hey, NTK familiar with this one. Shock darts are out. Darker will survive the onslaught for now. A 2v3, a situation that's still winnable with the Viper's Pit. And Theory's gonna plop that one down. Oh, but the TP's a second too late. Now it's all on the Theory. He's gonna get forced away. Shock dart in hand. Askia there holding the angle with the operator, and the Union piece together 5 in a row to take the lead.
And for a second, I saw the vision there for Fusion. With the 2 players remaining, that Viper's Pit that has been available for now 3-4 rounds maybe, and finally committing to it. But yeah, like you said, that TP, 1 second, even less than a second for that timing to go right in and allow the post to be effective. And it is one of the things that you were talking about. What needs to change for Fusion, right? Because they have this hyper aggressive composition with the Neon and the Yoru, and the more rounds that we see, the more the Union is able and willing to give that aggressive space right away. But the post plans have just been impossible for Fusion. The retakes are clean for the Union, even if it's a 1v2 as we've seen, or a faster one with a couple more players to work with.
Yeah, and coming into this one, you have to think the map wasn't the best for Fusion statistically, but they just saw what M80 did. They saw M80 kind of showing some of the weaknesses for the Union, so they build a comp around it. They take it to them for 4 rounds in a row, but this is just what the Union does, man. Adapt and overcome, and they've done that beautifully as they start with an early frag once more. This one traded back. Verdi gonna be the deposit here inside A main. 3 players are coming this way. They still want to try and fight him, but with that kill onto Rafa, they might choose otherwise. The back and forth continues. Now 3 remain, and it's Askia who's soon to be under fire. Oh, but this guy, give him the operator.
No way.
Here comes a shorty flash. He's gonna play up close and personal. We'll find another cloudburst to dash away, and Askia survives, and he wants some more. He's got the backstab, the 3K, and Askia is a beast.
All the B-side for himself. You don't need to even worry about it. When it's anybody coming towards B, it's gonna be the operator, it's gonna be the shorty for Askia, being that one difference maker. Insane for this Jet once again. And Jet, again, though, if we think about the Union, this is not the duelist that they used to have. They used to play with Havoc.
Yeah.
And even though you think for any other team, this is kind of the learning, the adaptation process towards a new player, it just seems like Askia has always been part of it.
I'll handle this.
And there has just been no answer at this point, so the quick hits continue. Once more, Dimensional Drift online. Out goes the Yoru. Hanks falls, though. Theory able to capitalize on the first kill. NTK flashed up and forced away too much utility at his face. GuRVN lets it slip, and Darker collects the kill. So Fusion finally starting to feel that confidence again. They walked their way onto the site. They erased the defenders that are there. And now with 5 players, they have to try and hang on to it.
This is so much different compared to the post plans that we've seen for Fusion with the numbers advantage, but for a second, NTK gets 2.
Ooh, and Rafa revealed by that one, spammed through the wall, but this is not the guy you want alive. Meted, though, on the backstab. Perfect timing there. You have to think Fusion fans were sweating with Askia in the 1v2, but they do good to minimize the damage that could be done. And the round goes back in favor of Fusion.
It's really just the 5v3 that has to play out for Fusion to win what really feels like the first post plan here. And they've been really good at getting that space early on, but the post plans and the positionings that they get, they have become very predictable for what the Union has been doing, has been swinging towards. So
time to jump.
Around there, that finds to be successful, but a Fusion that ended up with a crazy lead towards the beginning, now trying to make things even.
Clone is out, the op shots, they're ringing, flashes there, Rafa gives up his position, still finds one on the way out as Askia continues to tee off on this squad. He's got the blade, got the operator. Darker gonna look to make this one hurt, teleport to the back lines, the blades will cut him down. One more just around the corner, and Meted. Meanwhile, Theory still looking to get activated in this play. He's moving all the way through the spawn. Meted finds that kill, Shrouded steps to safety, has the spike in hand, so there's options for Fusion. They're down a player and one's been revealed.
The numbers here are going for the defensive side of the Union, and a different play that we saw towards the beginning, right? That aggression, once again, the Fusion wanted to play with, and the idea was good. They detect where one of the players was going to be very up close thanks to that Yoru clone.
30 seconds
But
left.
the trades have always been so clean for this Brazilian team, and it allows them to stay on top.
And they've got such a good read on this play. Finally, the smokes will come out.
Scanning ahead.
Meted in Theory.
Last player standing.
Worked their way on. Theory's already been erased.
10
GuRVN
seconds
gonna go into the back lines with 9 seconds, so 1v3. Meted, you gotta just frag your way out of this one, and they almost allow it. 1 of 3 will go the way of the Omen. Unfortunately, that was not enough. So the Union, after starting down 0-4, battle back and find themselves 2 rounds the lead, Brian, as we swap sides.
Just thinking about what it's been pretty much in America, especially North America, the very one-sided attack side for Pearl, right? But you think about the composition, this is not the compositions that we're used to seeing, right? This is a crazy aggression and aggressive composition. So I'm curious to see how Fusion is going to be playing around it here with that Neon and that Yoru that have been pretty good to getting that space, getting those kills. But when it comes to how they're going to be playing together, is going to be, a little bit of a heavier sack and playing for what we've seen of the adaptation for that mid round, right? Midted has been good for it, not only in the first match that they had, but today. With the pistols as well, the setups that the squad has brought.
The Union playing all the way across the map. 2 players spotted, damage onto Edu, and with that, the Union back away from it. Look to link up and play this B crunch. Fast rotations, that's what's allotted to Fusion with the Neon and the Yoru. See how quickly they're needed. Theory's already been erased from the B site.
Pretty much by himself, so they're the best situation to be in as everybody pressing their double key towards that B side. Mid did nothing to see. The location as well reveals to press. 45 seconds to work with.
Yeah, and NTK is so late on this play, Fusion don't believe it. They're like, there's no way that they're hitting this, but it was just the Union waiting for this spike to finally get here. Our duelists now rotate over from Fusion. So everybody is here, everybody that's allotted to the play. Unfortunately, Theory is not. As two players are spotted, make it 3 into the back lines, and Askia just before he gets done, he capitalizes on a couple of kills. The heads have been found, make it 3. This guy is just an all-star. NTK will close out the round. It's flawless for the Union.
With a post in there that just looks so clean. Everybody towards long. Askia actually staying behind. And yeah, like you said, right before he gets stunned, before things get a little messier for him, he gets the 2. And I mean, right before that too, he was not having a good time, right? Gets flashed, cannot see anything. Turns around after hearing that noise and shuts down 2, then 3 players. That is going to be the pistol as well as the 8th round for the Brazilian squad of the Union. With a buy as well that allows Askia to get a rifle into this one.
Yeah, Vandal making this attack a bit more potent. Darker. Oh man, Darker playing an adventure game with the Sheriff.
He looked at the map. He saw him just looking up for a second, and that's when he gets taken down. The timing for it.
And this should be an easy cleanup for the Union. Earlier, Dryad, you were mentioning the swap from Havoc to Askia, and I mean, this guy joins the team week 5 split 2 and undefeated at this point.
Yeah.
I believe an 8-series win streak, and Askia gets plopped into the mix. And I can't imagine the pressure was any more prevalent for this guy, right? The pressure was on thick for him to perform, and he's
fine, man.
Did that. Yeah, absolutely. This win streak, it goes unbroken, even into Ascension here with the win over M80.
Let's get these idiots.
And they're creeping closer to a map win, and Askia, I mean, is sitting pretty 20-6 at the top of the board.
It's just been so clean as well. And part of it is just Askia has always been an insane player, and I think it is one of the biggest topics of conversation for the Brazilian Valorant community, just how good this guy is, but how good the duelists as well have been for the Union. It just makes the work so much easier for everybody else. And a lot of scenarios where you don't always see Askia being extra supported like you need for other duelists, like you need for other Jets. He's fine by himself. He's getting those kills. We saw it in the defense a bunch towards that B side, but on that attacking side is not different.
Yeah, a real round here for Fusion to fight their way back into it after a 4-round win streak early in the game. They only found one more in the latter half of the first half. Now they have a chance. Again, quick rotations are allotted to them. Both duelists on the B site. Rafa has been erased from this one early. Meted.
I'm out of here.
Find another as Birdie pieces one more. Unfortunately, doesn't have the fancy footwork to stay alive, but he's already done his job. A 1-for-3 trade across the map. Theory, gets put in an awkward spot with util in hand, but fortunately for Fusion, they've collected another kill for themselves, and it's only Pank that remains.
The 2 players that get taken down for Fusion, kind of unfortunate timing for both of them. Birdie thinking there's nobody else, and getting taken down by Askia. Same thing with Theory, with a util at hand, trying to send that snake
30
bite in.
seconds left.
With that Pank, the last one here for a 1v3. Vandal at hand and running it towards A.
Yeah. He was ready for the angle. Had he won that fight, I think there's a world, or maybe it looks possible, a 1v2 at that point. Mita just around the corner. And maybe play that 1v1, and then we'd only have to worry about Darker. But either way, Fusion back on the board. They do so.
They're dead.
Not flawlessly, but they keep some of these weapons. So that bonus round from the Union wasn't too much damage. They should still have some fighting power moving into this next round. That will be as a full buy of the Union. But Fusion, they have to keep doing it, right? They have to play confident. We'll see if they look to fight for maybe some of this space. So no, Askia is confident. This guy, tip of the spear, he is already at the mouth of A main.
Going right in, and I talked about kind of the support that Askia gets here. This is when you have to see it, right? When the flashes are going to come through, when the smokes as well are going to set him up to go right in. That's what the call is going to be looking like. But another thing that characterizes this Union squad is when they have to slow things down, wait for that util to be wasted on the other side, and even go for the play contact. I mean, right now, there's no info until now.
And he's just going to jump right on in. Fragment to hopefully clear out backside. VCT hasn't moved thus far. Does find one, but Askia there to erase as he goes up top. Penk will keep him alive. And the Blades survive with 3 HP. 4 players remain for the Union. An easy spike plan here for GuRVN.
And there's a lurk.
Pulling them in.
And TK, look at where he is.
Well, okay, needs to start getting activated. I said it looked easy in the 4v2, but the duelist of Fusion starting to put it together. NTK on the back line, so eventually does make good on that lurk. And Darker just doing 180s here on the site, revealed by the dart. NTK makes good on his lurk, and the Union find yet another round.
Yeah, NTK just needed a little bit of time. Given that time, he's going to be right there for the last 2 kills of the round. Really well done, too. And something that we don't see very often, right? That's Sova on a long mission to make it back and to win that 2v2 right at the end. And it's extremely aggressive. It was a Fusion that right at the beginning, we're not really sure where the hit was going to be coming through or coming from. There was a smoke, things slowed down. There's no noise, and then that's when the Union hits. There's 2 here. 3?
Yeah, 3 here. Drone should spot them all. Unfortunately, the weaponry not the best in the face of NTK. It's the Yoru clone, but with that, Darker TPs to safety. He took a bit of damage on the way out. Maybe still healthy enough to try and fight. Crosses back halls. CDU. Edu, excuse me. And final round Askia. I mean, that's tip of the spear. That's been broken off. Now it's only the shaft. They start getting cut down once more. Edu's still fighting here. He's not giving up yet. This guy and a Bulldog, name a better duo to try and cut through the Union. Finally, Rafa will take him down. The damage done. Meet it in theory.
Not much.
Not much, but
1 enemy remaining.
it's the best they could ask for. Unfortunately, Rafa just too good on the angle.
Minted here for the 1v3. I'm really sure where they're going to be located. Rafa going to take care of it just fine with 3 kills, 2 and 11 rounds for the Union. With the defense, I mean, we saw wanting to play so aggressive, but I think the highlight there for Fusion was Edu. And how many runs we've seen from this guy where he's playing an off angle and catching a player off guard over and over again. It was good for 2, unfortunately not good for anything else as the Union secures the round. When they need to play for the straights and go for that postpone position, I think that is the strong side that the Union has. Fusion is just trying to adapt to, and part of it, yes, can be that composition change that we see from Fusion. They barely ever even played this map at all. I mean, 3 times total since the beginning, and last time it was completely different, right? It was Arena being played.
And they like their double duelist, but like you mentioned, yeah, this one a little more wacky than what we've seen previously. Good start, though. They get weapons back in their hand. Theory finds an early kill onto Pank, but that's not the only lurk that you have to worry about. We just saw one from NTK. This Union squad likes to get everybody activated as Meated goes fishing, but he doesn't find too much.
And with this composition, right, you don't have Killjoy util, for example, Crab. You don't have a Jet with the operator towards B, so you have to give up that space. That's what Fusion does right away, but for this post plan, it does become a lot more difficult. Theory good for the second, though.
And finds another in this tag, slowly starting to fall apart. The ultimates come through. Zapping Fingers online, stunned up as Theory finds a third. Verdi looking to close it out. Askia, you've been good, but 1v5 good while the spike's being diffused and you got no time. That's a bit out of reach. He will eventually be dealt with, though. This one ends flawlessly off the back end of Theory's 3K, and Fusion refused to give up here on Pearl.
Trying to stay alive. Last time that we got to see Fusion going against M80. All the rounds that they could get were 7 on each map. It was a 2-0. But a 7 is kind of where it stopped. I mean, we got to see some tweets from that coach from Kamikaze where he was talking about how a lot of the maps that Fusion plays, and especially the ones that they lose, sometimes it's because of kind of individual mistakes and scores that kind of lie to you if you just look at them. He thought a lot of these maps against M80 could have been closer than they ended up being. A lot of these rounds And he's trying to make sure that those mistakes are not going to happen again, especially in a situation like this one, right? Where the Union is so close, 11 rounds already here on Pearl.
Yeah, 4-round deficit. Fusion closed the gap a bit in the last one. They'll look to do it again here in this one, calling their final timeouts. Yeah, I mean, we've already seen it. We saw, I don't think anything says confidence more than just running as a team into a site and taking fights, which is how the game started, right? Verdi and Darker were kind of just running around all over the place, up through A, into Art, into the spawn, into B. They just didn't care. And then the Union started to find a couple early kills, and it seemed to shake Fusion a little bit. It seemed to take away some of that confidence. I'm hoping that a couple more timeouts later, they can get back to that, right? Even on this defensive side, fight for some of this space. You got Double Duelist. Let's see what you could do with it. Unfortunately, for now, it seems the Double Duelist will be home alone as the Union lean out towards A.
Everybody here, everybody together, all 5 players towards A. And it could be the same kind of play where they were kind of ready for it, waiting for the time to go for the hit. Still a little bit more supported early with the drones.
If Theory playing back, though, was able to get a snake bite out. NTK finds a reveal, will eventually get the frag, sends the 3rd shot just for good measure. Doesn't find a whole lot, but his team does.
Planted.
As Rafa collects another kill on the site, Spike is planted. And Fusion in a tough spot. Verdi taken it down. Edu now gonna try his hand. Sure, he's got the stun. He's got the economy to go for this one. We'll see if he opts into the save as he is being hunted. It's Saskia the one to do it, and the round will belong to the Union. And just too much strength there on the A site.
Match point.
You also have to think about the Union and this KO by himself, and how annoying it is to deal with that null command with the KO knife for Fusion, right? You have those players, you have those agents that need their abilities to run away, to escape, and even play for that full retake, and they cannot do so. You saw the Arcade getting taken down, you saw Minted too. They need to run away and to escape. They didn't really have the chance to. It was such a good set play too, thanks to that drill and the tag, and even that Hunter's Fury that got that first kill.
Yeah, Theory was able to get 1 snake bite off, but then that was it in terms of utility. So not a whole lot of stalling power out towards the A side. This time they'll do it with the weapons, though. NTK quick to answer. Back to kills of his own. Shirosky is gone, but now the rest of the team work behind the Sova. Lockdown to force the rest of the defense off this B site. We'll see if Union claim this one as their final destination here in what could be the final round.
Spike down B.
Yeah, was the only one there right on the other side trying to contest and play around that time. Trying to get at least 1, but not going to be the case. Theory admitted the last one's here.
Planted.
Alarm bot taken down. Theory gets aggressive, finds a kill onto Roth, but now needs to do it all himself. And NTK is in the back lines. A 4K for the Sova. And the map, it started rocky, but it belongs to the Union, Triad.
When you see the Union, when you see the way that they started kind of not winning any round, they lose that bonus, they lose that 4th round, you think, I feel like it's just a matter of time before they turn things around, and they absolutely do so. A Union that didn't even need really that timeout to make any sort of adaptations. They knew exactly how it was going to play out, and that is something that is so difficult to do when you're playing against that Yoru and that Neonet composition that you probably, and 100% I'm sure you've never seen before, even on scrims, and you're having to adapt to it. It seems like it was just part of it. It seems like they played against it from the beginning of time. So a Union that, again, continue to prove themselves as the best team, at least for Pearl. And we saw how close it was when they play against M80, but for this one, they knew how to stay on top.
Yeah, they remain undefeated here in series and maps thus far in VCT Ascensions America. We're going to send things over towards our desk to break down map number 1 between the Union and Fusion.
You know, they made us run a little bit faster through the desk segment because they were so eager to run through the map as well. They went with an obscure composition that was all about speed, and at first, it worked out quite nicely for Fusion. You saw them escalating the pace of play. You saw them abusing with the Neon Yoru. But in the end, it became a little bit more readable for the side of the Union. They were able to counteract what was coming their direction, largely based on the op play that we saw come out. And it just seemed like Fusion couldn't adapt to what Union was doing.
Yeah, I really love that the Union brought out that op as soon as they could, because a main weakness for the Fusion's comp is their lack of concrete info, because they don't have like that initiated, they don't have that Skydog, they don't have that, you know, Sova, Dart, or Drone. So like in order to take an area, they know that Fusion either has to util bomb that area with all the flashes or stuns, or they're gonna have to kind of contact peek that area. And if you have that op out, you're not going to want to contact up. You're gonna want to clear as much of that area as possible with your flashes, with your stuns. And if you just sit back and let them use all that util, then they even have less util for the site takes.
And what really allowed this operator to come online, I mean, I don't enjoy giving credit to one player for a team's success usually, but we kind of have to give credit to Askia, right? Because that round 5 clutch kind of got that economy going, allowed them to have the operator going. It sort of stopped the bleeding. Like, it was all going so well for Fusion until that meddling Askia just comes out of nowhere, has huge rounds back to back to back, pulls out the op. And after round 7, after that operator sort of came online, they really, you're absolutely right. I feel like they had no response to that at all, at least on their attack side.
And you almost wonder, like, we were watching this for the first couple of rounds, praising the composition coming in for Fusion because it was so unique. It was something we hadn't seen from very many teams, if any at all. We liked the breach play, but it's like maybe if there's just like a 1 or 2 things that need to change in order for it to unlock its full potential, to make it fully accessible, make it work a little bit deeper into the game beyond just the initial rounds. Maybe a KO instead of the breach makes it a little bit more versatile, but maybe not. Maybe this is just the theoretical ceiling. I don't know. There's so much that could be taken into consideration when you're looking at how this comp runs, but I do applaud them for trying something new. I think that we should always encourage teams to explore beyond the quote-unquote boundaries of meta compositions.
No, I really like this composition from Fusion because it was so unpredictable. They haven't really showed themselves play on Pearl before, and to come out with even more unpredictability with like the Yoru and the Neon was something that, like, you know, like Union, what are you gonna think? You're not gonna think that they're gonna come out with like the Yoru Neon play, and it worked. Like the first few rounds they were like rolling them, but Union was able to just make those adjustments a lot faster, a lot easier, and they were able to keep those adjustments going that led them to end up winning the map. But I like the Yoru Neon. I think with a little bit more work, I think they could really get it down. It could be really strong for them.
Well, hopefully that wasn't the only ace up the sleeve of Fusion, because there is another map to come, and there's a chance they can force things to map number 3. The Union obviously having a competent map pool is going to make things that much more difficult. We're going to go ahead and throw things to a break when we come back. Jumping into map 2 of our final day of the group stage. Stay tuned.